Hey guys, welcome to Pressplay Podcast. I'm joined by my friend Andre Antonelli from Machina Sports. Andre is building a agentic AI platform for the sports universe, starting with sports teams, leagues, fan engagement. Super cool concept, super cool founder. Welcome, Andre.
Thank you so much, Vinit. Great to be here.
Awesome, man. So, why don't you start by sharing with us a little bit about yourself, and then what you're building in at Machina Sports.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a computer scientist by graduation. So I've been here in San Francisco since 2017. I was working for other companies in biotech and consumer packaged goods, and
Hmm.
then by December 2023, I started to, as everybody, working with AI, working with LLMs. The ChatGPT API had just launched recently.
Hmm.
So I started to go into a lot of AI events here in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Ended up meeting my co-founder in one of these events, and yeah, from there we started brainstorming what could we do together. We come with a lot of passion for sports. He's used to do a lot of his own algorithms for sports betting, and then we decided to, okay, how can we use this knowledge and plus LLMs, these new concepts, to sports betting. And then yeah, we started building. Initially it was a B2C project. It was a sports betting copilot just for end users. The idea was to put that on WhatsApp and then have it as a B2C solution. But once we start building it, the whole stack, how you acquire the fresh data and make it LLM ready for, these pipelines, either for chat or content generation. So that was the hard problem, right? That we started seeing, like, anybody that needs to build these agents, or at the time, even like we were not even talking about agents back in uh, late
Right.
2023, right? It was
Hmm.
mainly like just prompt engineering and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started to at least understand, okay, anybody that needs to build these pipelines, they will need to maintain that infrastructure, these integrations with data providers, with new sources, and normalizing all of that, like kind of sports ontology or sports language, right? So that's when we took the insights to say, well, maybe we can take a step back, make it as a software development kit, so a B2B platform, so then anybody can use that instead of doing the same stuff that we had already built internally. And yeah, it's been great. We've been having a lot of fun working with different categories in the sports industries, from OTT broadcasting to sports betting to clubs and leagues. So yeah, our platform is trying to support all of these use cases because it's focused on as a AI infrastructure for sports as well. So yeah, overall, quite really quickly, that's how we started Machina Sports.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I have seen over the last few weeks and months that startups take different approaches. Like there are companies and entrepreneurs who are looking at just developing co-pilots for betting, as you say, or co-pilot agents for betting. I guess your approach is more holistic, or has evolved to become more holistic, where you're looking at not only co-pilots for betting, but also maybe targeting OTT platforms and fan engagement use cases. Was that something that you guys consciously did, or was it a demand from the market that people reached out to you, say, "Hey, Makina, can you do this as well?"
Well, definitely, it became a conscious decision once we started looking at the stack of the sports space. Like most of these organizations, they already have a data provider, right? They have some contracts with Stats Perform, Sport Radar, you name it, right? Genius. So most of them already have this licensed data. Then besides that, there's a certain number of CRMs that these organizations use. So we started
Right.
mapping all of those and say, okay, there's an opportunity here to already pre-build all of these integrations and make it as an SDK. So yeah, the idea to kind of push to that direction is mainly to understand that we can avoid rebuilding the same stuff, because
Mm.
most of the organizations use the same stack. So we took a step back and started building these integrations for the industry in general, instead of focusing on one specific use case.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. And what was the? I guess taking a step back, was there like a one? As they say in the startup world, a chaos moment where you said, okay, spoke to your co-founder and said, okay, dude, like now we need to look at this on a much broader base because the opportunity is bigger than what we thought initially?
Well, it wasn't. I wouldn't say a chaos moment, but there's definitely some. I would say some VCs and some investors, they look at
Right,
real money gaming as something, maybe I don't want to invest on this, or even it's not because they don't want it, but it's part of their guidelines, their policies, right? So we don't invest in gambling.
right,
So that was also something that initially uh, it wasn't the main purpose, but once we started talking to funds, we said, well, if you're only iGaming, sports books focused, that could be some sort of you're leaving some opportunities here on the table. So it
right,
was mainly talking to funds that they open up these ideas that yeah, you could open up your tech to be more uh, uh, generic in sports, and that helped a lot, because then we ended up actually having more customers in other verticals, and as well open up doors for VCs that are not purely sports betting. But yeah, that was kind of I wouldn't say a tech specific chaos moment, but it was mainly like kind of an insight that we got from our early investors. Um,
okay,
that's how we
interesting.
shipped. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting, man. I mean, that's fascinating. Um, and then, just double clicking on the product a little bit. Um, you are an AI agent builder, right? And then you are, building in a way a operating system where you have different AI agents for different use cases. I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
So, what are the main building blocks of the stack? That's one. And second, what are the use cases that you currently go after?
Okay. Yeah, I mean the building blocks. I would say so. There's a couple of aspects in our platform. So we have an SDK, which is
Right.
mainly the abstraction of a lot of this work that you would need to build internally and maintain. And this SDK contains connectors, which is the integrations. This is how we bring data in from your
Mhm,
existing license data. So think
mhm,
about social media feeds, CRM. If you have any knowledge base, for example, we integrated Zendesk recently to bring knowledge base for sportsbooks customer support. So this
mhm,
is these connectors, right? So this is the first building blocks is the ingestion of the data. Then you have the middle layer, which is our intelligence layer, is where you have all the I would say the data preparation part. So
mhm,
you can transform data, but also you can apply reasoning on top of this data, which is then that's how we have the LLMs integrations. We have Gemini, OpenAI, all of them available, so we can choose the best ones for the specific use cases. If you want low latency, you go with a smaller model. If you want a bigger, better outputs, you go to, of course, a bigger model. So that's
mhm,
kind of the middle layer, which is the reasoning and then intelligence layer. And
mhm.
within that layer, we have the whole database aspect of that, right? So our project is built in a way that is scalable per tenant. So each
Right.
customer, each organization have their own environment on the cloud. All the databases there are gapped. So then is where also this in the middle layer is where we have all the vector database for RAG. I'm sure you have heard about
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
retrieval augmented generation. So that's where we have all of this air gapped for your organization. And then you have the output aspect of that, which is still is using connectors, but then you have other connectors for multimodal generation. So we have, for example, VO3 for video generation, Nano Banana for images. We're also working with ByteDance models, so Chinese models, Seed Dance 1.5.
Oh,
So all of these
interesting.
multimodal models that you can generate avatars, audio, images, right? So yeah, I would categorizing these three steps: ingestion, middle layer, which is the intelligence and kind of yeah, enhancement of the data, and then you have the output, which is where you publish this. It could be a chat, it could be an audio, a video, etc. So that's how high level how it looks like.
Okay, awesome. And then the use cases that most of the use
Right.
cases are do you have a universe of use cases? And I'm assuming it's ever expanding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we are starting to now map, I would say, for specific categories. Like, for example, for sportsbook, we have now the Agentic sportsbook squad, which is then four or five different agents that are for this specific vertical, right? So we're looking at uh, analyst, so an agent that keeps understanding the odds and the stats, and bringing this to this mass intelligence layer, to this semantic layer that we create. So then you
Mhm.
can then be ingesting in specific workflow. So that's the one of the agents of the sportsbook squad. Then we have the content generation, or the writer, which is then uses all these insights, this intelligence that this first agent processes, or even
Mhm.
raw stats, and then start writing content. So we have write uh, blogs for SEO, so match previews, match recaps, injury reports, all of this as an automated engine, just spitting out content already tailored with sports book odds and specific prompts that they configure with us. Then on the same agentic squad for sportsbooks, we have the engagement agent, which is a conversational agent, which is then you can enable all of these analyses, all of these reports like injury reports, match previews to be then talked with, right? So then you have a conversational, which is then we just enable a chat. And then we have also another one that is more on the back side of the house, but is the support agent. So as I mentioned, we are integrated as well with the knowledge bases from the sports books, which contains the guidelines, the frequently asked questions, the policies for specific, markets. So then this also is available in context for the support agents. So then when they answer questions from a user, they can bring the internal knowledge base, but also aware of the stats of the game. So then the support agent
Nice.
is much more aware. Okay, you lost this bet because this is what happened on the game. So he has already within the chat also the our intelligence for sports. So that's also another area. So this is, I would say, for agentic sportsbook squad, which is this vertical. But then we have also on the OTT and broadcasting side similar agents, different I would say different prompts, different categories, but also similar
Right.
ideas. You have an ingestion that keeps analyzing stats and generating interesting facts. Then you have the content, the writer, which could be generating quizzes and polls based on the live stats or history of the games for the live engagement on the app. And then of course you have the chat, right? You can also enable chat within these apps, and then the fans can also tag and these agents and bring the latest stats from the game. So I would say, yeah, it's mainly different aspects of insights generation, chat, conversation, and then of course analysis on top of this data. So high
That's
level, that's
super, man. That's awesome. And Andre, I'm just curious. I mean, this sounds to be a use cases that, of course, automates a lot of the processes. Have you tracked by any chance the savings of time and cost of, let's say, a OTT platform or a sports team?
yeah. So in terms of time savings, for sure, I can mention one example from sports books, right? So the SEO teams today, um, for sure, time wise, our AI agents take 1 to 2 minutes to generate an article which is aware of the latest stats, right? So that's time savings already much more than you usually have a human. But in terms of cost as well, right? So cost, these articles are $100 to $300 depending on the type of article. With our stack, it runs for $2, right, or a little less than that.
Wow.
So then there's definitely savings on that sense. Um, but I would say that it's much more than that, because it enables you to cover, specific on this use case like blogs generation, it enables you to cover all the events now, right? You can cover
Right.
tier 2, tier 3 events. So maybe it's not even cost savings, but it's adding you more, revenue, because you now have the long tail. You can cover all of it, and then have users finding you through that. So yeah, in terms of savings, cost savings, definitely 90%, up
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a good point, because a lot of people only look at the use of AI from saving cost on time and automating. But the other benefit of it is that the more content you generate, or the faster you generate more content, the more chances of people finding you,
Right.
right, online. So your cost of customer acquisition is then optimized and
Exactly.
reduced in most cases. And then on the other side of customer retention, right, you also have the ability to spin up, let's say, polls or quizzes or other such fan engagement or user engagement strategies, which then retain the users. So it's
Exactly.
both the levers.
Absolutely, yeah. And we didn't even talk about yet about personalization, right, of this content,
Ah,
because all of these are now that I mentioned are mainly one to n, right, one to a lot of users. So one content
right.
to be used across users, but then you can also generate one to one, right, with AI, because we have the CRM integrations as well. So then you can start generating personalized newsletters, personalized podcasts, and you name it, right? So then you can send one to one based on the history of the fan. Let's say if a sports books, you can bring the history of betting from this specific user, and then upcoming events, and you can send a personalized newsletters. Are the markets that you should look into. So these are all stuff that we're building as well. So yeah, that, as you said, enables much more opportunities than actually just cost savings.
Right, right, right. Fascinating. And then I know that we spoke about your big marquee client, DAZN. So I think that'd be amazing to share maybe just a few use cases that you can share with people who are listening.
Of course, yeah. So we've been having, a blast working with the guys from the zone. It's a great team. They're really fast on working with us, innovating fast. So the first use case that we worked with them was for the Club World Cup that happened here in the US in June and July. And it was
Mhm.
mainly for multimodal gamification. So creating quizzes and polls based on the live stats, the history of the games, and yeah, pretty much automated content in more than 10 languages. So that was the first use case that we started with them, and it worked a lot, that we are now expanding to use the same agents, the same brains for more competitions, and of course get ready for the World Cup next year. What are the new use cases that we can build? We have something already cooking with them, and we hope to launch by the World Cup. But that's the idea, that this first use case with them was content generation. But as I said, we have our stack is flexible, so we're exploring as well chat. How we can bring this AI layer to the existing fan zone chat. They have a really amazing product there on the fan zone where fans engage a lot. There's a lot of community. So how we can bring an intelligence layer as well to that conversation, either by having a chat where you can, like similar to Grok on Twitter, on X, right? You can tag the agent and ask stuff. So this is something we're exploring, but also just have a background agent that is just for the event moderators that keep listening to the conversation. What are the fans talking about? What should we bring here now to engage with them based on what is the chat? Of course, someone can keep
Right.
reading that automatically, but if you have an AI that, you know, is aware of the game, the live stats, and the chat conversation, it can serve much better the event moderators to engage with them. So there's different ways that we are looking at this chat, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there. So we're really happy to be working with Azone, and then just keep innovating for the World Cup later next year.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the use cases that you mentioned chat. So let's say I'm a fan of a football team in the US, and I'm chatting with during a live match. And then I'm assuming that you can also build personas to say that okay, Vinit's a super fan, Andre is okayish fan, right? And so if I'm a super fan, my likelihood of even let's say purchasing a jersey is, let's say, the probability of conversion is 80%. So I'm assuming all these sorts of things can be introduced. So if I'm chatting and if you at the same time flick me across on WhatsApp or email a coupon for a 50% off on a jersey, for example, I'm much more likelihood to buy. If
Yeah.
not at the time of the match, maybe the next day. But stuff like that, I'm assuming the whole content commerce community bit can be really supercharged.
That's huge. Yeah, of course, you can have, yeah, as you said, different experiences depending on the fan, knowledge, the fan interest in the sports, and all of this is enabled by having these agents that can understand the context engineering, right? So we are
Ah,
focused on this context engineering for sports because, as you remember, end of 2023, when ChatGPT kind of started with the API, everybody was mainly talking about prompt engineering, right? How you make the prompt so the AI can make what you want in the right way. But now it's context engineering as well. How you bring the right information at the right time, especially on this chat use cases in sports is live. So then, as you said, each fan could have different experiences because the agent will decide, oh, this guy is a huge fan. I need to bring him the promotions from the CRM that we have there as for huge
Mm,
fan promotions, right? So
mm.
then the agent will be able to query that information. So the context engineering depends as well on what is the user's preferences, and we can personalize that. But yeah, it's huge. You can have individual personas for individual fans, so it's amazing.
Nice. And then, Andre, tell me before we get into the roadmap, in terms of your sales process as a startup, is there some sort of a Trojan horse where you get in with a very simple use case and then you can sort of upsell? I guess the question is, what's the most common use case that you see catches the interest of the client?
Yeah, that's totally right. Like we usually start, of course, with one use case, simple, like what is the main problem right now, and then of course we grow because once you are integrated with the tech team, you have validated by the cloud assessment team on these large organizations, you have pretty much all box checked, then you can start building more agents on top of that. So definitely we start with usually one use case. I would say for sports books, which is an example that we started with one use case and grew to more. I can say that we started with SEO, so content generation, because there's already a huge industry on that. So how we can tap into this with existing teams. And of course, most of these SEO teams are already looking at the AI, right? Of course, if you're not, you should be reevaluating that. So that's something, of course, that they're looking at. So how we can
Right.
tap into those teams to start, especially on the sportsbook vertical. But then it grew to much more. As I mentioned, there is now the chat where Copilot, their fans can, or sports bettors can find odds, find stats in a conversational way. Then there's the customer support, because once we have now the whole integrated with your existing stack for data providers, your own existing stack for knowledge base. Once we have all of this integrated, we can start enabling new agents. That's how we started. But I would say that the main one for sportsbooks is I would say content generation, which because it's simpler. You don't need to change UX or UI from your sportsbook. You can leaving on the background, publishing directly on your WordPress instance. So you don't need to change UI. I think that
Wow.
is a good
Nice.
start. Yeah, that's how we're doing with Aintain. Aintain is one of our customers as well. So we're publishing directly in draft. It's still not auto published because they want to still do a final check as a human validation,
Right.
but still, it's pushing their thousands of articles weekly on their WordPress directly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's basically it's like, we are still in this particular use case. In most cases, we are human assisted AI. It's like the human has to be there in the loop, which is totally fine because actually you are still automating most of the task,
Yeah,
um,
it's
which
perfect
is what.
because then you can use that to retrain. It's a feedback loop where, okay, the human did approve. Okay, that's a plus sign. If the human didn't approve, something's wrong. So we use that as input as well to retrain or improve our prompts, improve the agent reasoning, right?
Nice. And so, in typical, I mean, typical AI question, but most of the AI and LLMs, the more data you have, the better they get, right? It all starts with having data. So, taking that question a little further, I'm assuming that as part of your roadmap, you have plans to build a fine-tuned LLM which is focused on the sports universe. What does that look like in terms of timing, amount of data, etc.?
Yeah, this is a huge problem, I would say, that we've been working on. We've been, doing some as we're still a small early startup. Of course, we need to choose where we put a lot of our
Right.
resources. So we do some sprints where we focus on that whenever we have a little bit more time from our existing customers. But yeah, it's a problem that we've been working on for a while, which is how you can fine tune a LLM for sports that is always up to date, right? So it's something that is you don't fine tune once and then you just wait for the next model to have a new version, right? The idea here is that is an LLM that can help us on latency. So it's one of the main key metrics for LLM, especially on chat, where latency is important, is the time to first token, right? What is the how long it took to get the first token on the screen for the user, and then start streaming the answer, right? So this is the most of the you know chat experiences try to optimize for is time to first token, and then this is something that we right now we are using foundational models, Gemini, Flash. The new version of the Flash is great, the Gemini 3 Flash. It's faster, but still is not as fast as it could be. So the idea is for us is which steps of our reasoning on our agents we can change LLMs to have a much smaller, that is much more distilled for sports and has this knowledge there. So that's something we're researching internally, and the idea
Mhm.
is to have of course from distilling from an open source model, but have a much smaller model that is just aware of sports and always trained weekly, let's say, with the latest stats that happen on that week. So then you don't need to keep doing RAG from stuff all the time. The knowledge is already within the LLM. But that's something we are doing R&D, and one
Right.
of the reasons we are raising a seed round is to actually advance that work.
Right, right. No, awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming there's so many use cases and so many verticals to go after that, as you rightly said, maybe you go after sports books first, try and get that to a level of maturity before you start training other LLMs or, sub versions of the LLMs on different use cases. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Um, and, you're building in sports tech in the US. What are some of the challenges that you have seen in your journey so far? A broad question, but just wanted
Yeah.
to. A lot of people in sports tech will be watching this, so just wanted to throw it out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to say anything new, right? But as you know, it takes time, right? You need to be patient to, let's say, if you're in a commercial discussion with a specific customer, just don't lose hope, be patient because it's going to take time. Sometimes priorities shift and then it doesn't become a priority anymore. But then all of a sudden, oh, we need this for tomorrow. So you need to be able to go fast and deliver that, especially when you're early and working with top organizations. You gotta be able to be moving fast. But that's the reason why we have an SDK, is to be fast, is to
Mm.
be able to deploy these agents in a much shorter period of time. So I think that's kind of a big learning for us, in the sense that, yeah, be patient, but also create your network. In sports is a lot about meeting people, you know going to these events. It helps a lot. We saw each other now in Dubai, and it's
Yeah.
great to have conversations face to face. So these are the kind of learnings that we have, patience, and also network, meet people, because that's how you kind of build your brand, but also build trust. People understand more what you're building, especially in this area, AI, that is not as straightforward. You need to actually explain a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we tell all the entrepreneurs that we speak with that technology is half the battle, and then the other half is distribution, because that's where that's when the money hits the bank, is when the money hits the bank. So that's what you spoke about as a patience aspect. Perfect.
Right.
Um, and what plans for 2026?
Well, I mean, definitely World Cup, right? Get ready for
Right.
the World Cup. We have a lot of a lot of new agents being developed, new experiences that we're working with the Zone. It's the main rights holder for the World Cup, so we are excited to keep innovating with them. But also, besides that, because we have the whole stack available, right? We started to explore as well prediction markets. As everybody's looking at this,
Nice.
how we can now bring insights from Cauchy and Polymarket into our agents as well, from two perspectives. One, for engagement, so especially for OTT, live streaming, and broadcasters, how you bring that knowledge at the right time for these event moderators, for example. This is something we're exploring just by having an integration with Cauchy or Polymarket that gives what is the live crowd analysis of this game. So that's one aspect. But because we have all these autonomous agents already ingesting data, doing intelligence, and doing a lot of transformation, then doing a decision at the end, either to generate an article or to answer a chat, for example, we can use as the decision is to should we bet or not, right? So
Right.
then, because that's how we're looking at this as well. So how we can use our full agentic platform for sports that has already all the stats, has all the news, all the social feeds, use all of this intelligence to create agents that reasoning through on top of that, and then gives an output. Should we enter this bet or not? Does the crowd predict it correctly, or there's an edge here that they are not looking at, and we can enter and have more opportunity. So we are exploring this space as well, and I think it's going to be just getting bigger as you saw. So it would be a miss to not use our AI for that, because we are ready. It's available.
Dude, that's crazy. That'll be insane. I'm thinking of a use case that if I'm watching a live cricket match, and I on my personalized feed, if I can say, or the agent can tell me that the prediction market is saying that there's a 90% likelihood of team A winning,
Yeah.
and then it will automatically place the bet on my behalf if I set certain rules that if prediction market says more than 80%, then go ahead and bet, for example.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I would say that this is something that uh, in the future we definitely want to explore. Right now, the agents that we're building is okay. Can we put these agents running in our stack and do some autonomous decisions based on our rules? But why not open up our platform so anybody can create these agents, right? So then we can
Wow.
make it, which is already is right now, but I would say made much more user friendly, not developer toolkit, right? Much more as an easy way. And then you could have exactly what you said, like I have an agent that keeps listening to the cricket matches and then gives me some notifications. So yeah, something that definitely we can explore in the future. But yeah,
Awesome, buddy. Thank you for sharing unbelievable insights, man. The world of agentic AI for sports is not as well known as, let's say, streaming or sports analytics. This is the whole new world we are entering, or we have already entered.
right.
And I think 2026 is going to be front and center agentic AI for sports. So thank you for your time, Andre,
Of
and have a
course.
great holiday season and a fantastic 2026.
Thank you so much, sir. Great to see you again, and happy holidays. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.